Following in the footsteps of Phileas Fogg and travelling around the world in 80 days or more is now more than ever an achievable reality, and there's no better way to travel our globe than on the comfort of a beautiful cruise ship. So this week on Planet Cruise Weekly, Dan and I are looking into what to expect on a world cruise. A world cruise is the perfect way to visit and experience a wealth of diverse destinations with ease and, of course, in absolute comfort. Most world cruises now feature the option to add hotel stays and with multiple overnights in port and plenty of shore excursions, so you can truly explore to your heart's content. Now, world cruise itineraries can include bucket list moments like cruising through the Panama Canal, watching the sunset over the iconic Sydney Harbour, or simply stepping ashore to walk the awe-inspiring Great Wall of China. You can cover multiple continents and experience several countries and their cultures. Treat your taste buds to new cuisine, learn different languages, and of course make many new friends, all on a world cruise. Itineraries of varying durations are available, and you can choose to be sailing from 2 weeks through to 6 months depending on your cruise needs and time off work, or if you're retired, I suppose that's okay. Now, if you're unsure whether you'll enjoy 3 to 4 months on board, you can even try a single world cruise sector. This 2 to 5 week segment is the perfect insight to a world cruise. You'll meet up with your desired ship and have the luxury of longer stays and some fascinating, exciting destinations, and you can see firsthand what to expect from a full world cruise. Now, when you book a world cruise, you will want to make sure you get your best preference of cabin, as you will be staying in there for a longer time than normal, and it needs to be your new home away from home. So do be aware that cruises, world cruises particularly, do sell out really, really quickly, and specific cabin grades do so as well. Everybody has their favourite, so it is best to get in really early, and also make sure you're signed up to the Planet Cruise pre-registration programs. That way you'll be told when a world cruise goes on sale, and you can get in as quickly as possible and get the cabin you want. See the link in the description below for more information about pre-registration, and also don't forget to share this video with other people that might want to find out about world cruises, and hit the subscribe and notifications button, because that way you'll get lots of information about new deals, new bargains, new sales, new content that you might well want to watch and share and comment on. It's very simple. Ding, dong, done.
Around the world, cruising has become so popular that more and more cruise lines are adding a global jaunt to their schedules. That means hopeful circumnavigators can choose from a variety of itineraries, ships and prices. And remember, size matters. Think carefully how big of a ship you want. Until recently, there wasn't a wide variety in size of ships doing full world cruises. Today you can choose anything from smaller ultra luxury ships like Silversea to industry giants like Cunard's Queen Mary 2. Now, the advantages of a smaller ship on normal cruises, such as more personalised service and the ability to get into smaller ports, hold true on world cruises as well. And if you've been around the world a few times, a smaller ship with a more exotic itinerary might be for you.
Okay, so there are lots of different advantages, pros and cons, where it comes to picking a smaller ship or a larger ship on a world cruise. Much the same as it would be on any cruise. For instance, a smaller ship will have fewer passengers, so there might be less time waiting to do things, it might be less crowded on board, it's going to be more that sense of it being your own personal private yacht. Particularly on a port day if you're the only person left on board. And of course, you really look forward to some incredible new friendships. Yes, there's maybe slightly less facilities, maybe not 15 or 20 restaurants on board, maybe just 4 or 5, but do you really need 15 or 20? On the other hand, a bigger ship does have more options. It will have more ports, more entertainment offerings on board, but it won't necessarily be able to get into the same ports, getting as close to some of those ports because of its size. It may have to dock a little bit further out, and then you'll have to travel into those destinations. So there's pros and cons for both, depending on what you want. And finally, a really important thing to remember is that on the smaller ships, there'll be more people doing the world cruise and less people who are transients. And by that, basically on the bigger ships, you've got people that will be on just for 2 weeks, or just for a leg of the world cruise, or just for a particular part of that cruise, which is great if you want a real variety socially, you want to meet people all the time. But if you want that real personal family feel where you're just in it from the beginning to the end with a small group of people, then that's an advantage of being on one of the smaller ships. Hope that makes sense.
If you have a favourite line, check out its itineraries and prices. If you don't, look for the ones that offer your preferred style of cruising and the size of ship you want. From there, focus on itineraries. If you don't see an itinerary you like, expand your search again, but be careful. If you do a full world cruise, you will be at sea for 3 or 4 months. It's maybe not the best time to start experimenting with new lines or styles. Generally, world cruise ships fall into a few categories.
So the first category will be British style ships. And the two most famous names in cruising are world cruise veterans, and they almost always deploy multiple ships on extended or world cruises. Of course, that's P&O Cruises, classic British cruising, which offers modern ships in a wide variety of sizes, where your fellow passengers are likely to almost exclusively be British. And Cunard Line, which probably offers the grandest of world cruise experience, if only because of its name and reputation, and of course that great experience they've had. They've been doing it for so long. Now, don't be surprised to find crowds and festivities welcoming you to some of the ports with Cunard. Expect a little bit of formality and black tie galas in the very best ballrooms at sea. And unlike with P&O, your fellow passengers will be more of an international mix. Another historic name in shipping, particularly from a British point of view, these days, although not originally, is Fred Olsen, which caters almost exclusively to the British. And this line's ships are more modestly sized, and they offer a sweet spot between the small luxury ships and the larger, more modern vessels.
These have several small ships that do full world cruises or lengthy grand voyages. Silver Seas combines exotic, off-the-beaten-track destinations and classic favourites with ultra-luxury pampering. Often distinguished speakers or celebrities are part of the enrichment programmes as well.
Next we go to mid-size luxury cruise ships. Regent Seven Seas and Crystal are good bets for this particular category. For people looking for slightly bigger ships but who still want a luxury experience and all-inclusive pricing. Crystal's long voyages are usually heavily booked by its die-hard, loyal, repeat passengers, and the ships offer a refined, classic seagoing experience with wraparound promenade decks, gentlemen hosts for a nightly dance, fixed dining, and a seemingly never-ending supply of enrichment activities. Now, Regent and Seabourn don't sell world cruises per se. As of the time of recording this, that could well change in the future. But they do currently offer several lengthy voyages in similar luxury with a more contemporary twist.
Now, for those of you on a slight bit more of a budget, there are several options. Princess Cruises first sailed a world cruise in 2008 and generally uses the smaller ships in its fleet for a combination of contemporary North American cruising in a mid-sized ship. Holland America, a true veteran of world cruises over its 135 plus year history, offers a classic experience and usually sends one of its faster flagships, the Amsterdam or the Rotterdam, or its smaller Prinsendam around the globe. And Costa Cruises has gotten back into the world cruise market after 2 decades away. Its ships have a European flair and cater to international passengers at reasonable prices. Whatever style you prefer, it pays to decide early, as you get the best deals and cabins as soon as bookings open, which is usually around about 18 months in advance.
So, before we go any further, here are a few tips for evaluating world cruise itineraries and picking the best one for your interests. Number 1, check for sea days. This is really important when you're picking your cruise. You need to look carefully at the dates on the schedule. Cruise lines don't always list sea days, so it might look as if you have a myriad of exotic ports, one after the other, when actually there's a week at sea in between them. Next, it's good to think about the ports. Check the ports of call carefully, because it would be a shame to head off around the world and visit places you've already been to. On the other hand, a few repeat visits are great for discovering some new little gems.
Now, it's important to make the most of those longer stays. Having a few overnights or extended port calls helps to break up the ship routine. You'll know the city better, you won't feel rushed, and you can actually do what you came on the ship to do, relax and travel. And be sure to see if there is a good number of longer calls on your intended world cruise schedule. Another benefit of a world cruise is the ability to disembark the ship for an in-depth multi-night shore excursion, either during an overnight call or by rejoining the ship in its next port. You might be able to visit rarely visited Himalayan mountain, countryside of Bhutan, or even reach Machu Picchu. Now, while these trips are at an extra cost, they can add a lot to your experience and give a nice break from ship routine. Look closely when comparing cruises to see what overland excursions are available.
Next up, it's important to see how long you're in port for. Make sure your stays essentially aren't too short. Cruise lines are looking for ways to save on fuel, and having the ship at sea longer, thereby allowing a slower cruising speed, does add up to big savings, and that's just the reality of fuel costs and the world we live in. As a consequence, an hour or two is frequently being nipped from several ports of call. So if your ship always leaves at 4 or 5 p.m, is that enough time to see everything? And again, that can sometimes be a difference between cruising with some of the bigger ships on the world cruise and cruising with some of the smaller ones, the length of time they stay in port. Finally, check what perks you get for doing the full world cruise. Many lines will offer complimentary business class airfares or private car services to pick you up from your home. And then there's special events like a grand evening ashore, including maybe dinner with the company CEO. And then exclusive events such as having access to the Sistine Chapel, which would be amazing if it's just you and a few other passengers, or maybe even a campsite dinner in the Namibian desert.
Now, one very important question I often get asked, or we here at the office often get asked, is what should you pack for your world cruise? And this really mostly depends on your chosen itinerary and time of year you are sailing. Firstly, I'd say check out the Planet Cruise Weekly that was done on what to pack, which Keith is pointing to now. And also consider such things as formal wear, as most cruise lines will have several formal nights during a world cruise, or even a world cruise sector. And layering is also a great way to mix up your day-to-day wear, and there are often shopping facilities on board as well should you want to get something new. Also on board you'll find mostly laundry facilities. They're common, but always check with your cruise specialist on what to expect for your particular cruise. And don't forget your sunblock, passport and camera. They're essentials really, no matter where you're going.
Now, sometimes on a world cruise, people get heads up on how many formal nights there will be, and this will really depend on the cruise line you've chosen to sail with. Luxury cruise lines like Cunard tend to have between 1 to 3 formal nights per week, but again, that can differ. Again, your cruise specialist from Planet Cruise will be able to advise you further. And if you're not a fan of formal nights, there are certain brands where you can choose to go on the world cruise where you have less formal nights, hardly any. And again, you don't have to attend a formal night at all. There might be certain areas which you need to be dressed in that certain way to go to, but there's always alternatives for you. So here at Planet Cruise, we do understand that some of you might not be a fan of formal nights. All you need to do is chat to us and we can find the brand that will work for your best personal preference.
Absolutely. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about it being your home away from home, so something very important is to think about what cabin you should choose. Now, a lot of this depends on your budget, and if you're going to be at sea for several months, it's worth splurging on the bigger, better stateroom you can afford. If nothing else, you'll need plenty of space to store all those clothes. Now, a suite would be lovely, but it isn't always necessary. However, if you can afford it, a balcony cabin with an unobstructed view is probably worth the splurge. So you have somewhere to hide away from those fellow Globetrotters for that moment of me time.
Then you'll be able to really take in some of those iconic moments like entering Sydney Harbour, on your own, just with a glass of champagne rather than having to be out on deck.
Now, with choosing the specific cabin, the usual rules apply. The lower rooms in the centre of the ship are the most stable if the sea turns a bit choppy. If you can't bear being near the waterline, choose a cabin higher up, but still in the centre of the ship. Conversely, cabins at the front and back take the most brunt of the weather in a heavy swell, but those at the rear often have wonderful views over the ship's wake and sometimes get bigger balconies. Check out the small print in the brochures if that appeals. It's also worth to note, and a lot of people always say this, that cabins nearer to the lifts can be noisy as people return to bed from a late night out. And staterooms at the back are handy for the self-service buffet on the top deck and the restaurants on the lower deck, which invariably are at the aft of the ship most of the time, aren't they, Keith?
They are, that's true, that's true. Now, we have done a whole thing about cabins. All you need to do is click the link here and it'll give you more information in more detail. So it's really important to say that the best time to book a world cruise is typically from the moment that cruise goes on sale. Prices don't really tend to fall with world cruises because they're so popular. So the best value cabins get snapped up really quickly by those people in the know. Deposits are usually around 15%, so booking early gives you the flexibility to gradually pay off the balance over a year or more. So you've decided what ship you want to go on, what itinerary you want to go on, and you've taken all the advice so far, you picked your cabin, you know, you're all set. Now we're going to give you a few general world cruise tips. First one is to check your passport thoroughly. Always helps. Even in an age of electronic documents and email, you still need to have several completely empty pages on your passport for visas and stamps, which is fantastic fun because you can look back and see where you've been. Not every country will stamp you, which is handy, but many require face-to-face immigration with every single passenger on board, especially in North and South America. Also, your passport must be valid for at least 6 months after the final port visit on the cruise.
Over the course of a world cruise, you can be travelling a lengthy amount of time, but don't forget that many countries have different medical requirements and health advisories. Some countries have very cut and dried requirements. Some African or South American countries require valid yellow fever vaccinations, while other countries offer vague recommendations depending on the regions you will be visiting. The best thing to do with this is to get on the phone and talk to one of our Planet Cruise experts, as we are able to help and provide you with the information and places to look. And there's also sometimes when you just need to contact your doctor.
Our third tip is to make sure you have plans to keep in touch. I know, part of the appeal of a world cruise is the escape, the sense of being far removed from your daily life. But it won't be long before you find yourself wanting to call home to talk to your friends and your family, and yes, maybe even to do some work. So taking advantage of the free Wi-Fi in port means you can be in touch for a fraction of the cost as opposed to what you normally get charged on ship. If you have any doubt about where to find the free Wi-Fi in port, just ask one of the crew or follow them as they head off with one of their laptop bags over the thing. They'll all be heading off to find the free Wi-Fi, have a coffee and Skype home or chat to their friends and family on Facebook or Instagram and the like. They've been there before and they'll always know the best places. Now for most people this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, so before you leave, pack a spare battery and battery charger for your camera, or if you're going to rely on your iPhone or your other Android phone, make sure you've got your charger pack for that. Also make sure you've got enough memory on your laptop to download twice as many photos as you expect to take. Bring several high storage memory cards so you can back up the photos you put on your computer. Memory cards actually are really, really cheap. You know, you can order a couple of really good ones very easily. So we hope this episode has helped you out with your information and knowledge about the wonderful world of world cruises. There's a lot of information in this, so we have put a little handy list up on the screen. Feel free to pause the video right now and write the main points down. Obviously we have tried to cover as much as we can, but we may well have left stuff out. If you disagree with anything, please get in touch, let us know. We do love you to join the discussion, and if the video was helpful, please share it and let other people know. I'm Keith.
I'm Dan.
And we are Planet Cruise, and remember, you dream it, we plan it. Hi everyone, thanks very much for watching the video. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe below, and remember to click the bell to get those notifications turned on. And if you're looking for more fantastic travel content like this, then click on the videos to the right. It will be really informative. Or you can click on the Planet logo to the left and go to our website for some really fantastic deals. Thanks for watching.